get started. Sorry, we're running late this afternoon, y'all. Thank you for being here. This is the third episode of the Noon Peanut Report. Thanks to the guest coming on, Todd Baughman. I'm going to kick it over to you as the host, and I will get this show started.
All right. Well, Shelley, thank you and the Texas Peanut Producers Board for hosting this. And today we have several of our county ag educators from throughout the state in our peanut growing regions that we're going to discuss a little bit about the current conditions and kind of the outlook for the 2025 season. So I'll kick it off with Mike Berry. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your background?
Sure, yes, sir. So I'm the agent here in Comanche County. I've been here for about 12 years. Been in extension for about 20 now. Grew up on a dairy farm and been around farming my whole life.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. Briana, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sir, absolutely. My name's Briana Gonzales. I'm the County Extension Agent for Ag and Natural Resources, as well as 4-H Youth and Development, proudly serving all of Frio County here in Pearsall, Texas. We're southwest of San Antonio. That kind of familiarizes everybody here on the group here today. I've been in Extension for a little over 5 years, and I've been serving here in Frio County for a little over 3 years. So started my career in Extension in Jim Hogg County, and further more south in Texas. So I was working in a lot of brush and beef cattle, and then coming over here to Frio County was a complete 360 with a lot of row crop and irrigation farming. So during my time here, I've learned quite a bit, and I'm really excited to be here.
All right. Well, thank you, Briana. Terry, I guess, is our senior agent. We'll finish up with you.
Yes, Terry Millican. I'm a county agent here in Gaines County in Seminole, Texas. I started in Extension in January of '88. So I'm working on 37 years. I started as an assistant agent here in Gaines County and moved to several other counties over the next 10 years and came back in 2001. And so I've been here for about the last 24. Grew up at Robert Lee, Texas, there by San Angelo on a sheep and goat and cattle ranch there. The only farming that we did at that time down there was small grains and hay grazers and those type of things. But I quickly learned about cotton and peanuts when I got here to Gaines County after graduating from Texas Tech with a master's and a bachelor's there at Texas Tech University. So been here for a little while.
Yeah, you definitely have. I had an opportunity to work with Terry when I was in the state peanut specialist position, so known him for a long time and a lot of the good work he does there. So with that, Briana, I'll start in the South Texas side and we'll move our way north. You want to talk a little bit about kind of the general weather conditions, what the current soil moisture conditions are, and just a general weather update at this time?
Sure, absolutely. So current conditions here in Frio County, here in South Texas, as I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen, we're in an extreme to exceptional drought at this time in the county. This is actually the first week that we've entered into these triple digit temperatures. So as you can imagine, we have been in quite a bit of a drought. Talking a little bit earlier with Shelley, the other parts of Texas don't seem to be as impacted. But here in South Texas, it's fairly usual that as we enter these summer months, going into the peanut season, we're coming into these triple digit temperatures here. This week, our temperatures, we've reached about 108 degrees. So it has been quite a scorcher here, as well as putting us under heat advisories as well. We've also experienced a lot of wind gusts averaging between 20 to 40 miles per hour. So a lot of things here that kind of come into play, as well as a huge lack of rainfall that has really impacted the overall conditions here in the county. So coming into rainfall reports that we've received from different producers, as well as our local USDA and NRCS office, up until today, we received on average about 5 inches of rainfall. This is a couple of inches less than we were last year. So unfortunately, it hasn't been significant enough to keep our soil moistures and the overall, ground saturated enough for our farmers as we enter into the planting season. So this definitely set some challenges for our farmers, and just kind of talking to them and talking to our peanut team from AgriLife Research. A lot of our farmers here are preparing for the planting season at this time. Just speaking to them, a lot of them had to pre-irrigate their fields, kind of do a lot of more field activity, as well as considering on planting a little bit early this year as well. We do have a lot of irrigation systems out here, so along with inflation and everything increasing, I think a lot of our farmers are taking into consideration and planning a little bit early, kind of saving in some costs, as where they feel, a lot of these costs in water and the wells and the pumps are going to potentially increase as we enter into the summer months.
All right. Thank you, Briana. Well, Mike, I wasn't thinking, but I actually grew up in Comanche County also, but it was the one north of you guys. And I know they've had quite a bit of rainfall here in the last couple of weeks. So I don't know if that's a similar condition down where you're at, but if you want to kind of give us a weather update for Central Texas.
You bet, you bet. So we're in much better shape than what we thought we were going to be in. We hadn't had some of the moisture that they've had north of us, but we've had some good moisture recently. We were, the forecast didn't look too positive. So we're pretty happy right now. Our soil moisture's in good shape. Our lake is full from the rains last fall. So we think we're going to have plenty of water for irrigation. Planting on average is pretty much well ahead here in our county. The last of our peanuts should probably go in the ground next week. We had some really good conditions back in mid-April, and we had some producers plant, and I think that's the earliest I've ever seen them plant here. I think we had some go in then, and they're just trying to kind of see how it might work, get in early. And some of those peanuts struggled a little bit because we had some of those wet, cooler conditions, but they're starting to come around now, and with the warmer weather, and they're looking really, really good. I think they're really going to come on. Of course, we've had a little bit of thrip issues, and with the moisture, we've had some weed issues as well. And everybody's kind of hit everything with around the cadre to take care of that. But boy, overall, things are looking pretty good here.
Well, good deal. So Terry, we'll follow up with you out west. What's the current weather conditions in West Texas?
Well, we're definitely dry here in Gaines County. We checked with our local water district here, who runs about 50 different rain gauges and checks those every month. And since January, we've had 1.59 inches here as average across our county since January, and that doesn't include what's happened here in May, but we're behind in terms of rainfall, and it's been spotty. It's been real spotty. We've gotten a lot of rains that have come through, but it's not just a good general rain. In a lot of cases, we've had a couple of those, but we're dry, and we've had weathers. In terms of weather, the wind has been awful this spring, and we're still having 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts now, and gosh, back in March and stuff, we had those 60s, 70s, and even some that reached 80 in terms of wind gusts. And it's just been a terrible year in terms of the wind and stuff. I don't think I can remember in my lifetime to where it's been this bad, without a few of the haboobs, taking those out of play, but just in general, to where we've had this much wind and this consistent of high winds, and that's going to take a toll on a lot of things that as it's coming up, unless we're in some of that minimum till that can really, really withstand those type of winds. But even some of our minimum till, if it's not in real good shape with those type of winds, we're going to have some issues there in terms of both cotton and peanuts, coming up. But just in general, we're behind in rainfall, and the wind's going to be a problem. Temperatures Temperatures are getting on up there. We're hovering close to those hundreds at times, but we've had some cooler days. And a week or so ago, we had about a week of really cool weather that kind of slowed us up in terms of planting and those type of things here. But weather in general, we're fighting some of the elements.
No, I would agree. I got handed a graph earlier this year, and I think we ended up somewhere around 130 to 140 days at Lubbock without a tenth of an inch of rain, which I think ended up being like the fourth longest stretch in the history of those weather records. So I would agree with you. We've definitely had those issues. And then the wind, that 80-mile-an-hour one that you talked about, I guess I don't know if I'd call it the interesting thing, but it basically blew from morning to night. It was a sustained wind for probably 8 or 10 hours. So, even in those haboob type situations, we usually don't see one that lasts for that long. And then, 4 or 5 days later, we had one come in after dark, which, is rather unusual. So they've been rough, and they've also been a little bit different, I think, too. I think you'd probably agree, Terry.
Yes, yeah. Like I say, I've never seen it like this that I can ever remember. And talking to a lot of our farmers, they can't remember it this bad. And I know growing up down there around Robert Lee and going east, the Goldthwaite area and stuff like that. Man, I was coming back through there in March through a few of those, and it was all. I mean, it was so dusty you couldn't hardly see down there. And I don't ever remember in my lifetime it being as bad as often as that. So.
Yeah, yeah, sure enough. So kind of where are you guys at as far as planting progress and planting conditions, Terry?
So I'm going to say we're probably 80% planted in terms of peanuts. I thought we were more than that. And in terms of peanuts that are contracted, I think we are. But we've got a lot of these non-contracted peanuts that's still going out the doors now and going to get stuck into the ground. So I think we're probably about 80% in terms of where we're at. These guys started that third week of April and planted pretty good, and then we got that week that kind of shut us down. But this last week, man, we've really been sticking lots of seed in the ground and moving, and the weather, has been good for us to do that for the most part. And so I think we're probably around 80%, maybe even a little higher in terms of planted. But we will get there really quick if the weather permits at this point.
Yeah, I think from our discussion earlier, we'll probably have most of that knocked out this week if I was guessing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Mike, I know you said y'all were a little bit earlier than usual on this side. Kind of where are y'all at percentage wise, and kind of when do you think you might wrap up?
I think we'll wrap up next week. If not, then the week after. I think we're probably around 85% also. The fellows I've talked to are either finishing up or going to finish up next week the way they act. The weather's been good. We got a little bit of rain in the forecast this weekend. That might slow them down a little bit, but it'll help as well. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting close. For us, this is pretty early.
Yeah, no, that's what I was guessing. So sure. So Brianna, where are you guys at? I know you've got a few acres planted, but percentage wise and kind of what are guys thinking how long it'll take or their plan to, I know they stretch it out a little bit longer in South Texas. So kind of what's the thoughts there?
Yes, sir. Sure. At this time, I'm thinking we're at a good 40 going into 50%. I know a few farmers have started, I would say very little fields have started planting in the month of April. Usually for us here in Frio County, we go into the later part almost of June. So here, obviously, significantly different as far as the planting season goes, just due to the mild temperatures, drought conditions, just all those factors coming into play.
Okay, well, good deal. Um, well, any other kind of issues or concern for the producers and I guess the industry as a whole in your area, Brianna?
I think one of the biggest things that we've been talking about, and I'm sure Johnny and the team are talking about, is really focusing a lot on drought resistance, a lot on the drought side of things. and a lot about the water crisis. I'm sure some of y'all have heard in the news as well. So I think that's kind of in a lot of thoughts for our farmers here. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of them are kind of talking about some concerns with prices increasing as we go into the summer months when it comes to electricity and water usage. So those are kind of the thoughts that are in everybody's mind currently.
All right. Well, Mike, what's kind of your thoughts as far as issues and concern for our producers in Central Texas?
Well, it was going to be moisture, but things have kind of turned around for us. I think for our peanut growers in particular, we need higher cotton prices so we can take some of that, put some of that acreage back in cotton and not have so many peanuts on the market. That seems to be getting a good contract or getting a contract period. It's been a bit of a struggle this year for the guys. So I think, that's the biggest. And then just our normal things, Johnny and them doing a good job with some breeding down there to find some nematode resistance. We always have trouble with some nematodes and just different things like that. But those are things we're used to and we can work through them.
All right. Well, Terry, your thoughts from Gaines
Well,
County.
I think water is going to be the biggest issue here in terms of being able to get these crops up and going and having a good season. If we rock along there and we don't get any more rainfall than what we've been getting, it's going to put a strain on all of our systems, our aquifer, and these guys are going to have a hard time keeping up in terms of getting what we need to in terms of water to these peanuts that we're going to have planted. It looks like in Gaines County, I may step out on a limb a little bit, but I'm going to say we're probably going to be real close to 75,000 acres of peanuts this time, and that's due to the cotton prices that was just alluded to, and those type of things. And peanuts, one of the best things that we've probably got here in terms of price this time. And so I think those acres are going to be up there. I think we're going to have more acres of non-contracted peanuts than we've ever had in the county because of that and some other issues. And so water, is going to, with those type of acres there, increased acres and those type of things in peanuts, that water is going to be an issue for us. And then just other environmental concerns. The winds, these winds play the devil with us here in terms of getting these things up. And then hopefully, if it stays dry, we may not have as much of a disease problem here as some folks in some of those wetter areas. So that won't be as big an issue, I hope, if we can just kind of get enough moisture to keep these things going and those type of things there. But I think the water is the biggest problem that we're going to have.
Okay. So Terry, what percentage do you think of your acres there in Gaines County are organic this year? Do you have any rough idea?
In terms of organic, I think we're probably looking at, I don't know, maybe 20,000 acres of organic, peanuts, across, I guess. I really don't know what percent it's going to be. I can't answer that. That's a hard one to answer. Bob Whitney could probably answer that, and he and I talked yesterday a little bit, but probably that 15 to 20,000 acres, I'm guessing.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I'd been hearing. Mike, do y'all have any interest or any growers doing any organics in your area at this time?
Here in Comanche County, there's zero right now. I mean, there's been some interest, but it's kind of hard for us. You go just north of us in Eastland County, there's a little bit, but not a lot. No, it hasn't taken off here.
Right. And I assume the same situation with you in South Texas, Briana?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Just here in Frio County, it's our runners that are planted. I believe looking at 2024 acreage reports, we had a little over 10,000 acres planted of runners and about 300 of Spanish. So to my knowledge, I don't believe we don't have any organic here in the county.
Right, right. So Mike, kind of as far as other crops, pasture conditions there in Central Texas, what are you guys looking at there as possible other options?
Well, fortunately, we've got the dairy industry strong here, so a lot of the ground that would have went into cotton or things like that has gone into corn for corn silage. But at some point we may get too much of that, and that the price for it may be not too good also. So that's kind of that they've been looking for options. That's for sure, but just because of that. But a lot of corn planted in the county this year.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised rolling through some of the northern rolling plains and into southwest Oklahoma how much corn had went into some of that area compared to past years. I think obviously due to the price of cotton and also some of the input costs with that. So I think there's some interest there across the board. What about you, Briana, there in South Texas?
Yes, sir. I would kind of agree with Mr. Barry as well with his response there. We have quite a bit of corn that's been planted here. That's pretty much reaching maturity at this time. But other than that, I pretty much agree with Mr. Barry's response.
Okay. Terry, what about y'all? Have y'all started planting any cotton, and what are you thinking acres wise there?
We have planted cotton. We've started, typically, Todd, we're here 290,000 acres, kind of year in, year out of cotton. We're not going to be there, I don't think, this time. But on the flip side of that, in terms of all alternate crops, we'll have a little bit of wheat, 20, maybe 30,000 acres of wheat, about 15 or so of grain sorghum, 10,000 or so acres of rye, and we've got, pecan trees, orchards going in. We've got grape vineyards going in, those type of things. But we just, we're mainly cotton and peanuts, and so that's kind of where our guys are going to, keep hanging their hat. But our cotton acres will be down. Some of these guys will choose not to plant, and try to save some input cost, and then we've got a lot of guys that's just going to put seed in the ground as well and hope for the best, so but our cotton acres will be down. I don't know exactly how much. There's folks saying that we could be down 100,000 acres, and I don't think that's anywhere close to the case. But I said that to just, I guess, make the point that there's a wide variety of what people are thinking on cotton acres. So I just can't answer that.
Right. And I think that's probably a general kind of thought process across the plains here. Briana, what's your thoughts on the outlook for 2025, just to kind of cross the ag industry in your area?
Sure. So here in Frio County, I always like to say we got a little bit of everything. We've got beef cattle, row crop irrigation systems, range and wildlife. So we have a good mix here. But obviously, being here in South Texas, like I've mentioned, we're just dealing with the drought pretty badly here in South Texas. That's kind of always been a big factor and a big impact to a lot of our producers overall in the county. On the beef cattle side, a lot of our producers are having to cut their herds. A lot of these prices increasing in a lot of the supplemental feeds and hay have gone up. And so there's still a lot of high demand in beef cattle, but a lot of producers are really considering on cutting their herds if they haven't done so already. And same thing kind of goes for the others as well. Just we get really, really impacted and affected by the drought conditions here in South Texas.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So Mike, what about your outlook for Central Texas as a whole?
Well, if you'd asked me in February, it wouldn't have been too good. There were a lot of long faces here then, but like I say, since then we've had some moisture. So most of the guys are smiling pretty good. Even the row crop guys, even though the cotton prices are down and there's just not a whole lot out there in the crop end, they're still just happy to get some moisture and have something to plant into. And the beef cattle prices are unreal. Of course, beef is really huge here. So that's been really helpful. And most of our guys are very diverse. None of them have just one thing. All of them usually have some cattle and the row crops along as well. A lot of pecans here in the county, also a lot of vegetables. Some things shine and some are not looking so good. I guess it's just typical. There's always something maybe good out there, but for the row crop guys, it just don't look as well though. But but we're cautiously optimistic, I'll say.
Yeah, you talked about the cattle prices. I saw a post from a gentleman the other day that stated he could sell 2 steers for the same price as a semi-load of wheat. So that's definitely different than what we usually experience in that case in the past. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
definitely up there in cost. Terry, your thoughts on outlook for 2025 for the Southern High Plains?
Well, the producers' attitudes with the rains here across the High Plains, with north of us, these guys have gotten a good bit of rain in some cases. So I think the attitude's a lot better than what it has been, as far as being across the South Plains and the High Plains here. Gaines County, we're still dry here, and we still need those rains here. And like I say, we did get some rains that come through that inch and a half that we got here just this last month. Sure has perked some of these guys' attitudes up, and they're able to get some crops in the ground and get some stuff going. So attitudes are a lot better. But if we don't continue to get some rainfall, then it's gonna be a little bleak here again. And you can have those years, but when you have 3 or 4 of those in a row, it sure gets hard. And so these guys again. They too are optimistic. They too, are hoping for a good year. But I'll be honest, we're going to have some help from Mother Nature for us to be able to really have the year that we need to have here in Gaines County. On the livestock side, we're starting to see a lot more cattle here. We're starting to see a lot more sheep and goats up in this part of the world. We had a lot back 20, 25 years ago, and it kind of comes in cycles, but we're starting to see a lot more sheep and goats come up here, and a lot of these guys are starting to diversify a little bit in that area, and converting some of that farmland over to livestock. And so I think that's a good thing for us, because in terms of prices, that's you alluded to a while ago, boy, that some of that stuff is really high, and it's good for those guys that's got them. Those guys trying to get in right now is having to pay those premium prices, and that certainly is not the best situation for those guys. But market's good, and anytime the market's good, and you can provide a livestock, whether it's sheep, goats, cattle, and you can sell them at a premium, and that feed cost is cheaper for you. We can make some money, and that's kind of where we're at right now on the livestock side. So I think we'll continue to grow a little bit here in terms of just livestock here in the county. But again, rainfall again is going to be the key to us.
Yes, sir. So I see that Bob Whitney has joined us online. Bob, if I can call you out, we had a question earlier about kind of where we think we're at acres wise on organic peanuts in the state. Do you have a feel for that for us?
I wish, Terry, like Terry said, we've been talking about that, and I wish we knew. I think I could interview somebody on the street, and they'd probably have as good a guess as we do. Who's going to plant peanuts and how much is a real tricky question in Georgia. It's huge. It is right now Shelley could probably tell us this, but it is the only crop that looks like it's going to make any money for us. And even then, we're worried about selling it. There are, as Terry said, there are several growers that are wildcatting peanuts, and there are lots of organic growers doing the same thing. I talked to 2 yesterday that are just going to plant them with the hopes that they can sell them as organic. And there's several that are doing that in the conventional world as well. I told Terry yesterday, as we were talking about it, that overall there's 15 to 25,000 acres that are typically planted in the South Plains. And Terry, with 90 organic producers, probably has the majority. So he's somewhere in that 15 to 20, as he said. I think he's spot on with that. I wish we could be a little more, correct with our guesses here. I'm making a swing through your area, Todd, next week, and going to visit with some producers. Talked to JR a couple of days ago, and he was busy planting some organic peanuts, but he said his acreage is down. So I don't know. I wish I had a better answer.
So where do you know where the price point is on those organics right now, Bob?
$900.
Okay.
That's
That
up and down depending on the type that you're going to grow, but yeah, somewhere in that range. 925 on Spanish, somewhere in that. So, and that was a month ago. I don't think it's changed much since then. That's down from 1200 last year. So yeah, it just keeps dropping. The thing that's going to throw all the peanut industry up in the air is the Mexico stuff. There's a lot of peanuts do come from Mexico. There's a lot of organic peanuts come from Mexico, more than they actually grow, but I won't get into that one. And the issue that we have with the tariffs and the trade and just cartels and all that's going on there, we don't know that they'll be able to get those peanuts into Texas and through the state somewhere else. So we could be in the driver's seat as far as peanuts go. In talking to organic growers, this is brought up a lot, and you know, a lot of the growers in Terry's area, they have relatives in Mexico, and they're all nervous down there about the trade issues. So that's that's 2 cents. That's probably not worth a penny. So anyway.
Bob, you're talking about how we could be in the driver's seat. Are you talking about Texas or are you talking about the US? And
Texas, Texas, those peanuts are coming through here. And if they don't come through here, now, you know, I don't know what Georgia's going to do to impact that. And you could have uh, some of our shellers to just say, well, I'll bring them over from Georgia, but that's not as easy as it used to be. The trucks are not there. And so I think they're going to potentially the reason I think that we're going to see wildcat peanuts is that some of these farmers are looking at this idea of them not being able to get the peanuts here for a cheap enough price, and so they will grow them here, and they will be able to sell them because of this Mexico trade issue. Now, this is just all guessing and trying to put things together what you hear, but I don't mind saying it out loud. Todd can fire me if he needs to.
Well, I don't have that stroke anyway, Bob, but and wouldn't want to. But uh, so tell me if I'm wrong. But I mean, we still, at least in the U.S. in Texas, produce the bulk of the organic peanuts. Is that correct?
That is, yeah, 99%. You'll hear other places mentioned, but it's so few that when I look up their acreage and stuff, it's not much. So you're just it's like a garden type situation in general. There's a little bit more coming out of Georgia, but their yield per acre is horrible. So
they tried a co-op, some type of co-op in Georgia for organic peanuts, and I don't think that they're able to get it off the ground. I think the
no,
disease.
they couldn't get anybody to give them any contracts because they couldn't reasonably say they'd deliver an aflatoxin free, you know, good peanut. So
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't want to. I know I'd upset our growers here with the cost of weed control in Texas in organic, but their weed control costs are even beyond ours. Besides, like you said, the yield factor with the disease issues that they deal with. So,
right.
so as far as competitors, who else besides Mexico is kind of in that organic market?
Argentina.
I started to say now you're way south, and they have competition issues just simply on price because you know they're at $900. They can't get them here for that. Now some of in Argentina's cost per production unit is not that far off from ours is. So I don't, you know, they're pretty modern in the sense of things, and so they're not. I just don't see them as being able to compete or actually, you know, lower their prices down enough to be that competitive with our guys.
Yeah.
Considering the freight.
But it's
Yeah, and I would assume some of those areas, their cost of production would be above us too. So
Yes, exactly right. We assume all these other countries are going to be cheaper than we are, but not there. No.
yeah. So I
I don't know,
do see what.
Shelley,
Oh,
anything
go
I'm
ahead,
saying
Bob.
wrong?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Did I say anything wrong, Shelley? I don't know
Oh,
if.
not at all. No, you've
Okay.
got me thinking. I'm just processing through it. But no, I agree with you. I think that when it comes to quality, Argentina, and Argentina's always going to compete with us because they've got a high quality peanut and they can grow a high quality organic too. And where is that balance between making sure our farmers are making enough money to stay in business and pricing ourselves right out of business because Argentina can grow them at times cheaper. So there's always that balance, right?
Yeah, and I would say I think that's the difference when we're talking our conventional production peanuts versus organic, you know, because that's the same thing we're running. Then we start running into those issues in some of the other states east of us that possibly could produce them at equivalent prices or less. So I
We're
think
seeing
definitely.
good demand on peanuts, period. But organic is up about 7-8% in consumption. So pretty good, you know, that's a good thing to have. We've been in the 4 to 5 range, so 7-8% is a good increase. But peanut consumption overall is still up. That's good.
And we've kind of been on a trend up for several years, haven't we, Shelley?
Yeah, consumption has been on the increase, and a lot of that has to do with the early introduction and really eliminating or reducing allergies in peanuts. So we are seeing consumption levels increasing. I want to say we're up to like 7 pounds per person per year, which is a really strong number. That may be
Yep.
way up. I shouldn't have said that number. Be really wrong.
We'll just say it's right. How about that?
Yeah,
It sounds really good, doesn't
go
it?
with it.
If you're a politician, you could roll with that, Shelley.
Truth or not truth, I'm going to say it, claim it as the truth.
Yeah. So I noticed we also have a couple of researchers on here. Johnny Kaysen, kind of where are you guys at as far as finishing up your planning and so forth?
My guys finished out in West Texas this week, and then Central Texas, we planted over in Comanche County, but we still have everything here on the center to plant. And then we'll move down south, and we'll have 2 or 3 more spots down there. We'll probably be planting through 4th of July, I would guess, but we're kind of gluttons for punishment.
And I guess everything's went good as far as conditions and that sort of thing for you guys so far this year?
Yeah, what Terry said, Brian was out there yesterday and he said it was, or day before yesterday, he said it was blowing so hard they just decided to wait to plant till the next day. But we've gotten everything in and it all looks good. It's coming up and looking good.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, Pete Dotre, I see you're online. Where are you guys at with getting your research plots in?
Well, as it pertains to peanuts, I guess, you know, a smaller effort there down in Gaines County where Terry is. I think things look pretty good. I was down there, I guess, Monday of this week. Peanuts were pushing. Stand looked pretty good. Saw, you know, some peanut fields kind of looking similar, you know, in transit to and from the location I was at. So, you know, other crops, if that's of interest here, you know, corn, today we had some sprays that were at the V3 stage. A lot of cotton going in the ground this week has already been mentioned. A lot of our cotton stuff will start on Monday.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, Dr. Gricker, how about in South Texas?
We haven't started anything yet. We'll start about the 1st of June. We always delay a lot of our disease work to about middle of June, so we get plenty of leaf spot development late season. So we still got everything ahead of us.
Okay. And what are conditions looking like for you guys there?
Well, Briana went over a lot of it. You know, could use some more moisture. South Texas kind of College Station in that direction, east of Yoakum, got plenty of rain. West of Yoakum didn't get a lot of rain. So College Station got flooded just about that area.
Right, right. All right. Well, thank you, James. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. We'll start with Terry. Are you there? Anything you want to finish up with and any potential upcoming events that you want to advertise for Gaines County?
Yeah. Again, you know, I say for Gaines County, you know, again, the producers are optimistic. You know, we're hoping that we'll get those rains that we need in terms of rainfall to help us out, so we don't have to irrigate as much, and we can stay ahead and be able to get those crops going. And so I think we're going to stay optimistic, and then just hope and hold, as they say, on how things go. In terms of major peanut type programs that we've got going on, we will have on August the 19th. We'll have an organic cotton and peanut program up here. It's a program. It's a multi-county program here for the South Plains, and it'll be here in Seminole for those organics there. We'll also have a field trial tour that second week of September. We'll have you know, little field days, turn roll meetings, those type of things as we need pop up, you know, through the growing season. And then our big conference is our Sandyland Ag Conference. And we have that in February every year here in terms of row crop production, cotton and peanuts mainly. And we'll have, you know, anywhere from 250 to 290 folks there at that thing from the county. And so it's a big program, but that's kind of the 3 or 4 major you know, activities that happen year in and year out in terms of peanuts. And then again, as it need arises, we'll have other activities that come along as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Terry. Yeah, I'll have to get an invite to that February again. That's always a good meeting, and look forward to seeing you guys and all of the growers down there. Mike, how about Central Texas?
Well, no, everything's just kind of looking up here, you know, looking a lot better than it did a couple of months ago. As far as programs go, we'll have on peanuts, we'll have our peanut field day in September. Don't have the date exactly yet. And we'll look at some of Johnny and Emmy's work that they do out there and look at some really good peanuts. Other than that, you know, we have a lot of ag programs, but that's peanut wise, that's what we got going on. And appreciate you and the board and Miss Nutt for all the work y'all do for our growers.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. Well, Briana?
Yes, sir. We're really excited to be in the full swing of planting season here in Frio County in South Texas, and moving forward into these next few months, as you heard from Johnny and Mr. Gricker, you know, we're going to be putting down some trials and doing some research, peanut herbicide trials as well. And to follow along with that, as far as programs go, we have our annual South Texas Peanut Growers annual peanut tour that we do here annually. Kind of towards the later part of September is kind of what we're going to be planning and looking forward to. It is a multi-county effort with Atascosa County, my next door neighbor, with Mr. Dale Rankin. So that's something that we always look forward to every year, along with South Texas Peanut Growers annual meeting that'll occur March of 2026. So those are some great things that we're looking forward to. And overall, we are just praying really hard for some rain and some increased moisture here in South Texas. And just like Mike and Terry said, we really appreciate the opportunity to join y'all this afternoon, and happy to be here.
All right. Well, make sure and keep us apprised as you get those dates locked down, and we'll get that information. And I'd sure enough like to try to get those on my calendar. I always enjoyed working those areas when I was a state peanut specialist, and getting the opportunity to renew some old acquaintances. I'll really be happy to do that and look forward to that. I'd like to thank all 3 of our county ag educators for joining us today. And all the information they provided. I think this was a really good webinar, and I also appreciate all of our other speakers that joined in to kind of update us on the situation throughout the state. So with that, Shelley, I'll turn it back over to you if you've got anything you'd like to add.
So peanut consumption is 7.9 pounds as of 2021, so almost 8 pounds. So I wasn't completely off. I tossed that number out there. And thanks to you guys for your contribution to this episode. We're going to record it and put it on our website and just create an archive some great shows with everyone. So thank you for being on it with us today. And we'll see you guys out in the field soon, I hope. Todd, thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Y'all
Thank
later.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.